What up, friends? I can't even do it to begin with. And today we're going to be reviewing Heize's newest album, Undo. This is the second album overall by Korean singer-songwriter and rapper Heize. Heize has always had a sound that I've really liked, combining a smooth alternative R&B sound with a hip-hop edge. More recently, with her last few mini-albums, she's expanding into ballad territory, occasionally some soft rock and stuff as well. It's pleasant, although not as engaging. This newest album, released 3 years after her previous one, She's Fine, sees her combining that balladry with the sort of smooth pop and R&B that she's known for. While it does still have the identity problems of her ballad work, this record at least knows what it wants to do and sticks to it, and it's a pretty pleasant listen overall. The title track, Undo, is a pretty good opener for the project. The funky bass and groovy beat make for a chill yet sensual experience that sets the tone. Her vocals are also very wistful over this instrumental, having a joyous yet also subtly somber touch to them. This is fitting for lyrics about her getting over a breakup or relationship and trying to find happiness in her own company, even if she kind of struggles with it at times. The upbeat instrumental and delicate vocals are a pretty good combination, having a sort of city pop 80s aesthetic at times. Sad Ending sees a slight continuation of the more upbeat instrumentals, or at least upbeat for Heize, but we're definitely going into a much more melancholic direction this time. The soft panging guitar with that slight Latin edge to it is a perfect backdrop for this sort of cloudy and moody aesthetic. I'm also really loving the piano, keeping it subtle but also having enough of a presence to really feel the longing in it. This is only enhanced thanks to the sort of guy-girl dynamic with George's feature on this one. It's about a breakup where none of the parties involved really feel like it ended on a good note, so this sort of longing and sadness tracks. I'm a bit less keen on I Don't Lie, feeling a bit more standard in its acoustic guitar leanings. It feels like your average K-drama ballad track, which is fine enough on its own, but kinda lacks an identity because of it. The chorus is pretty clean, with Heize's very delicate and soft vocals picking up a bit, but the instrumental is not quite there. Geary Boy's verse was fine, but it kind of sticks out in a bit of an awkward way. I feel like it drew too much attention to itself that it didn't really want. That soft-spoken rap style could work, potentially, but I don't know. Here, I feel like it was almost a little too overbearing for how simple the instrumental was. It's a fine track, just nothing really big worth noting. Thief starts out a bit slow with your typical contemporary R&B synth, but it really turns into something special as the beat picks up and as that pan flute comes in during the chorus. Heize's vocals are soft and sweet, and Minnie from (G)I-DLE also makes a great appearance here. Minnie feels like a very natural extension of Heize's portions of the song, and she even throws a bit of a rap in that meshes with the tone of the track much better than on the previous one. It also helps that this rap in particular that Minnie does sounds like something that old Heize would do, so thematically it's fitting. It's a smooth and sensual song, but in a somber way. And I still seriously fucking love that pan flute, man. Distance is a bit of a quirky one, with an off-kilter beat and a twangy guitar at times. It's a decent enough track, though it does feel noticeably less full and lush compared to some of the other ones on here. The beat is a bit more static and rigid, and while I Am from Monsta X's performance was pretty good, it also had that sort of static and rigid aesthetic to it that I'm not the biggest fan of. Heize and I Am's passages definitely feel like two distinct parts of the track rather than two halves of one whole, I think. They're fine on their own, but they don't really add to one another. Love Is Alone is definitely your standard acoustic-inspired love ballad, which is definitely pleasant, but I'm kind of wondering if we even really needed a track like this on here, especially when pretty much all songs on this album have a very soft and muted aesthetic. Again, it's not a bad track, and it does sound nice when the beat picks up, but there's just so many songs on the record with this sound, I'm not really sure we needed another one. It just doesn't really stand out because of that, although I do think Heize's vocals really shine here, as she's kind of giving herself more room to kind of go all out in that department. This track also at least does carry a significant amount of weight to it that some of the other songs on here don't, I think. The rest of the songs on the album are just kind of more the same, really. Like I said, what she's doing is still pleasant to listen to, but the second half especially comes off as being pretty one note. While the instrumentals are solid enough and the vocals are very refined, there's just not much deviation in the soft R&B and ballad formula here. Most of the songs use the same instruments and the same general progressions, and it's kind of a rarity that you get tracks like Undo and Thief to break up the pace. I don't really hate any song on here, even if Supercar is a little too pop folky for my taste, but there's also not many songs on here that really stand out. I don't necessarily think that Heize needs to go back to her older sounds like Wish and Wind and Before, but it's hard to deny that this more ballad-oriented aesthetic and sound are a lot less engaging than her hip-hop infused R&B. We really only see that side of her on Traveler, and it's only for a small part. I really think that Heize needs to make sure that each song can stand on its own in addition to being solid in an album setting. It's a fine balance to strike, I will admit it, but as it is right now, Heize is making some pretty pleasant lounge music, just not much is making a lasting impact. I'm feeling a decent 6 on this newest album by Heize. Of course, we do have to talk about album covers on this show, and I think this is a pretty pleasant album cover to look at, actually. It does feel very summery, very wistful. It has that sort of like beach aesthetic to it that I think is kind of a vibe. The colors are very warm. It has like the blues of the sea meshing with the blues of her sort of jean top. It's pretty cool. Her pose is also very like elegant and airy and light, which is also pretty engaging. So the album cover I think is pretty cool. Font's pretty nice as well. I just wish the aesthetic and sound of the album had a bit more oomph to it. But of course, those are just my thoughts on this newest album by Heize. What did you guys think? Do you think this is just a natural continuation of her sound? She's just refining it and making it better? Or are you also kind of missing the punch of her earlier material? Let me know. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, and you can't undo it. And until the next one, farewell.